25. Most tragic deaths of black celebrities in Hollywood. What if I told you that some of the greatest black legends in Hollywood didn't just die? They were taken in the most shocking, heartbreaking, and mysterious ways imaginable, plane crashes in flames. Family betrayals, unsolved shootings, silent battles with illness, even sacrificing their own lives to save someone else. These weren't random tragedies, many of them could have been prevented. In this video, we uncover 25 of the most devastating celebrity deaths that left fans shattered and the industry forever changed. Before we begin, hit like, subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence and stay with us because the deeper we go, the darker the truth becomes. Lisa Left Eye Lopes. Lisa Left Eye Lopes was more than just the fiery member of TLC. She was a visionary who helped the group sell over 65 million records, making them one of the best-selling girl groups in history. While fans adored her bold-fashion, razor-sharp lyrics and fearless personality, Lisa carried deep emotional scars from a turbulent childhood and public scandals. After her infamous incident of burning her boyfriend's home in 1994, her life became tabloid material, overshadowing her creativity. Yet instead of breaking down, she rebuilt herself by embracing spirituality, philanthropy, and artistic independence. She launched her own label, helped upcoming artists, and traveled to Honduras to seek healing and peace away from fame's chaos. In 2002, Lisa began recording a documentary to show her transformation and start a new chapter. During this spiritual retreat, she survived a minor accident where she accidentally struck a young boy, a tragic moment she believed symbolized that death was following her. Only days later, on April 25, 2002, fate struck with full force. While driving a Mitsubishi Montero with friends on a narrow road in Honduras, she suddenly swerved to avoid a truck. The vehicle flipped multiple times, metal screeching and glass shattering as witnesses screamed in horror. Lisa, who was not wearing a seatbelt, was violently ejected through the windshield. The impact was fatal. She was only 30 years old. Her death devastated the music world. TLC was at their peak with hits like Waterfalls, No Scrubs, and Creep, and plans for a comeback album were already in motion. The group had changed the sound of R&B forever, and Lisa was its rebellious heartbeat. Fans mourned not just a superstar, but a woman who dared to be raw, honest, and unapologetically herself. Even more haunting, her final days were captured on camera in the documentary The Last Days of Left Eye, where she spoke about destiny, fear, and feeling a strange connection to death, as if she knew her time was running out. Lisa's passing became one of the most tragic and shocking celebrity deaths in Hollywood history. It represented the heartbreaking pattern of black stars lost too soon, often at the peak of their talent. Her legacy still inspires female artists to be bold and authentic, proving that even in tragedy, her spirit remains unforgettable. Aaliyah. Aaliyah Dana Houghton, often called the Princess of R&B, was a once-in-a-generation talent whose voice elegance and futuristic sound reshaped the music industry. By just 22 years old, she had sold over 32 million records worldwide, earned multiple platinum albums, and become a fashion and film icon with starring roles in Romeo Must Die and Queen of the Damned. Her third album, Aaliyah, debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, proving she was entering her prime. Fans admired her calm confidence, mysterious aura, and ability to make R&B sound both smooth and cutting-edge. She wasn't just rising, she was about to dominate music, movies, and pop culture for the next decade. In August 2001, Aaliyah flew to the Bahamas to film the music video for Rock the Boat. The shoot wrapped early, and she and her team decided to head back to the U.S. immediately. What happened next became one of Hollywood's most horrifying tragedies. On August 25, 2001, Aaliyah boarded a small Cessna 402B plane that was over 700 pounds overweight and carrying more passengers than allowed. Even worse, the pilot, Luis Morales III, was not certified to fly that aircraft and had traces of cocaine and alcohol in his system. Just seconds after takeoff, the plane struggled, tilted sharply, and crashed into the ground, exploding into flames. The impact was so violent that Aaliyah was killed instantly. The world was paralyzed with grief. How could someone so young, so gifted, and so loved be gone in an instant? Fans gathered outside radio stations, MTV aired non-stop tributes, and celebrities spoke of her as if they had lost family. Her death sparked massive outrage, raising questions about music industry negligence and the pressure placed on artists. Investigators confirmed the crash could have been prevented, making her passing not just tragic, but painfully unjust. Aaliyah's legacy only grew after her death. Her style influenced stars like Beyoncé, Rihanna, and Drake. Her music still charts decades later, and her mysterious angelic energy made her immortal in pop culture. She wasn't just an artist, she was the blueprint. Her unfinished potential makes her death one of the most heartbreaking losses in Black Hollywood history. A reminder of how one moment of negligence can steal an icon the world wasn't ready to lose. Kobe Bryant and Gianna "Gigi" Bryant. Kobe Bryant was more than an NBA legend. He was a global symbol of relentless work ethic, competitive fire, and artistic brilliance. Over his 20-year career with the Los Angeles Lakers, he became a 5-time NBA champion, 2-time Finals MVP, League MVP in 2008, 18-time All-Star, and the 4th all-time leading scorer. But Kobe's life after basketball was just as remarkable. He won an Academy Award for his animated short, Dear Basketball, wrote best-selling books, built a media company, mentored young athletes, and dedicated himself to being a devoted husband and father. His daughter, Gianna "Gigi" Bryant, only 13 years old, was following in his footsteps. She inherited his passion and skill, becoming a rising basketball prodigy already drawing attention from UConn and WNBA scouts. Kobe proudly said, "She's going to carry the legacy." On January 26, 2020, Kobe and Gigi boarded a Sikorsky S-76 helicopter with 7 others heading to the Mamba Sports Academy for Gigi's game. The skies over Calabasas, California were covered in dense fog so thick that even police helicopters had been grounded. Despite the dangerous conditions, the pilot attempted to navigate by sight. Mid-flight, the helicopter climbed rapidly before suddenly banking left and plummeting nearly 2,000 feet in 40 seconds into a hillside. The impact speed exceeded 180 mph, causing a fiery explosion that left no survivors. The NTSB later confirmed that pilot error and poor visibility caused the crash. The world stopped. News outlets, fans, athletes, and world leaders mourned together. Murals appeared on buildings worldwide. The Grammys held a tribute the same night. Millions gathered outside the Staples Center in tears. But the deepest pain came from the harsh reality. Kobe died not as a superstar, but as a father holding his daughter, traveling to support her dream. Kobe and Gigi's deaths became one of the most devastating tragedies in modern history, not just sports. It reminded the world that even legends are human and even heroes are vulnerable. Yet their legacy of passion, excellence, and love remains eternal. Mamba and Mambacita forever. Rajul Butler and Leah LaBelle. Rajul Butler and Leah LaBelle were proof that talent and love could exist in perfect harmony. Rajul, a 14-year NBA veteran, played for teams like the Miami Heat, New Orleans Hornets, and Los Angeles Clippers, earning a reputation as a deadly three-point shooter and respected teammate. Off the court, he was known for his disciplined faith and mentoring young athletes. Leah LaBelle, meanwhile, rose to fame as a finalist on Season 3 of American Idol, later signing joint deals with Epic Records and So Def under the guidance of Pharrell Williams and Jermaine Dupri. Critics praised her soulful voice and called her the next R&B breakout star. Together, they were seen as a power couple full of promise, beauty, and ambition. But on January 31, 2018, their lives ended in a shocking late-night crash in Studio City, Los Angeles. Around 2:30 a.m., Rajul was driving his Range Rover at an estimated 93 to 102 mph in a 35 mph zone. Surveillance cameras captured the SUV losing control, hitting a curb, and violently slamming into a concrete wall and parking meter. The impact was so powerful that the vehicle flipped and split apart, scattering debris across the street. Both Rajwal and Leah died instantly at the scene. The city woke to the news with disbelief. The tragedy became even heavier when toxicology reports revealed Rajwal had alcohol, marijuana, and oxycodone in his system. Fans struggled to reconcile the disciplined professional they admired with the recklessness of that night. Leah, just 31, had been working on new music. Rajwal, 38, had recently retired and was exploring broadcasting and coaching. They were planning a future careers, marriage, and perhaps a family. Instead, the world was left grieving two rising stars who had barely reached their full potential. Their deaths stand out as one of the most heartbreaking celebrity tragedies in modern Black Hollywood, not only because of how they died, but because of how much life and light they still had left to give. In one moment of speed and fate, the entertainment world lost a champion and a voice that never got to soar. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke was more than a singer. He was the architect of modern soul music and one of the first Black artists to take control of his career in an industry that often exploited talent. With timeless classics like You Send Me a Change Is Gonna Come Cupid and Twistin' the Night Away, he sold over 10 million records in the 1950s and early 1960s. But Cooke wasn't just a chart topper. He was a civil rights pioneer demanding ownership of his music, starting his own record label, and inspiring future legends like Marvin Gaye and Prince to fight for artistic freedom. At just 33 years old, he was wealthy, influential, and planning a new era of Black empowerment through music. Then came one of the most mysterious deaths in music history. On December 11, 1964, Cooke checked into the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles with a woman named Elisa Boyer. Hours later, motel manager Bertha Franklin shot him 3 times, claiming self-defense, insisting Cooke was enraged and forced his way into her office. Police quickly accepted her story. Case closed. But nothing about the night made sense. Cooke was found wearing only a sports jacket and one shoe, no pants, no wallet. Boyer claimed she fled from him, yet later she was arrested for prostitution. Franklin and the motel owner had criminal records. The investigation lasted just 11 days, and no one was ever charged. Rumors exploded. Some believed it was a setup related to money disputes. Others suspected jealousy, the mafia, or even the FBI due to Cooke's civil rights activism. His family never accepted the official story. Legendary attorney Johnny Cochran later called the case one of the biggest cover-ups in entertainment history. What's certain is that music lost one of its most powerful voices far too soon. Sam Cooke's tragic death remains unsolved, controversial, and deeply painful. And yet his final song, A Change Is Gonna Come, released posthumously, became the anthem of the civil rights movement. Even in death, he sparked change. His voice may have been silenced, but his impact will never fade. Otis Redding. Otis Redding, known as the King of Soul, was one of the most powerful voices in music history, with hits like Try a Little Tenderness, Respect. These Arms of Mine and the posthumous classic Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, he helped shape the sound of 1960s R&B and inspired generations of artists from Aretha Franklin to Prince. By just 26 years old, he had performed at the legendary Monterey Pop Festival, signed a $1 million contract, and become the top artist at Stax Records. He wasn't just rising, he was about to become the next global superstar, rivaling Motown's biggest names. Friends said he was entering the most creative period of his life, writing new music daily. But on December 10, 1967, everything changed. Otis and his band, the Bar-Kays, boarded a Beechcraft H-18 plane en route to a concert in Madison, Wisconsin. The weather was brutal, freezing temperatures, heavy fog, low visibility, yet the pilot attempted the flight. At 3:28 p.m., the plane descended toward Truax Field Airport, but visibility was nearly zero. Suddenly, the aircraft plunged into Lake Monona, just 3 miles from the runway. The crash was catastrophic. The plane broke apart on impact, sinking into the icy water. 7 people were on board. 6 died, including Otis Redding. Only Ben Cauley, the trumpet player, survived. He was found clinging to a seat cushion in the freezing lake. He later said he woke up to silence, then realized everyone else was gone. Even more heartbreaking, Otis had finished recording The Dock of the Bay just 3 days before the crash, and it became the first posthumous #1 single in Billboard history. His death shook the music industry. Radio stations went silent. Fans lined the streets at his funeral in Georgia. Had he lived, many believe Otis Redding would have become as big as James Brown or Marvin Gaye, perhaps even bigger. Instead, he became a symbol of brilliance taken too early, another black icon lost in a tragic accident. Yet his legacy never died. In just 5 years, he changed soul music forever. And in the haunting whistle at the end of Dock of the Bay, the world still hears the sound of a dream unfinished, and a legend gone far too soon. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was not just the Prince of Motown, he was the soul of a generation. With masterpieces like What's Going On, Let's Get It On, Sexual Healing, and I Heard It. Through the grapevine, he transformed R&B into a vehicle for passion, politics, and pain. His album, What's Going On, is consistently ranked among the greatest albums of all time, praised for tackling war, racism, and injustice when no other mainstream artist dared. By the early 1980s, Marvin had won 2 Grammy Awards, sold tens of millions of records, and become an international icon. But behind the spotlight, he battled depression, failed marriages, financial troubles, addiction, and a deeply toxic relationship with his father. In 1983, Marvin made an epic comeback with Sexual Healing and a legendary performance of the national anthem at the NBA All-Star Game. But fame couldn't heal his inner wounds. He moved back into his parents' home in Los Angeles in 1984, exhausted and paranoid. His father, Marvin Gaye Sr., was a strict preacher with whom Marvin had clashed his entire life. Their relationship was built on tension, jealousy, and years of emotional abuse. On April 1st, 1984, just 1 day before Marvin's 45th birthday, the tension reached a deadly peak. A heated argument erupted between Marvin and his parents over misplaced documents. Voices escalated. Marvin, overwhelmed and already fragile, confronted his father. Then, in a moment that shocked the world, Marvin Gaye Sr. took a gun Marvin had previously given him for protection and fired 2 shots into his own son's chest. 1 bullet pierced Marvin's heart. He died in his mother's arms within minutes. The home that once held gospel music became the scene of an unspeakable tragedy. The world was paralyzed with grief. More than 10,000 people attended his funeral. His father was charged with voluntary manslaughter, but served no prison time due to a brain tumor diagnosis. To this day, many fans believe Marvin's death was the tragic result of lifelong trauma, unhealed pain, and a system that failed to protect him. Marvin Gaye's death remains one of the most heartbreaking and personal tragedies in Black Hollywood history, not at the hands of strangers, but by his own father. Yet his voice still heals, his music still protests, and his legacy still lives, reminding the world that genius and suffering often walk hand in hand. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Amaru Shakur was more than a rapper. He was a revolutionary voice, an actor, a poet, and a cultural prophet. With hits like Dear Mama California Love Changes and Keep Ya Head Up, he sold over 75 million records worldwide, becoming one of the most influential artists in history. But Tupac wasn't just music. He spoke openly about police brutality, poverty, systemic racism, and the struggles of Black America. He was charismatic, yet controversial, raw, yet brilliant, and unafraid to challenge the world. Even while facing lawsuits, prison time, and public feuds, he continued to rise, signing a $3 million deal with Death Row Records and working on movies and activism. At 25 years old, he was already a legend, but he also lived in constant danger. The night of September 7, 1996 would change hip-hop forever, after attending the Mike Tyson vs. Bruce Seldon fight in Las Vegas. Tupac and Death Row CEO Suge Knight got into a physical altercation with a gang member in the MGM Grand Lobby. Later that night at 11:15 p.m., Tupac sat in the passenger seat of Suge's black BMW riding down Flamingo Road. A white Cadillac pulled up beside them. The window rolled down. A burst of 14 bullets erupted. 4 hit Tupac in the chest, arm, and thigh. The scene was chaos, screeching tires, flashing lights, screaming crowds. Tupac fought for his life for 6 days at University Medical Center. On September 13, 1996, he died from internal bleeding. He was only 25. But the tragedy didn't end there. The killer was never officially caught. The case was filled with silence, missing evidence, false leads, and police negligence. Some blamed gang retaliation. Some blamed Suge Knight. Others believed the government targeted him for his political influence. Conspiracy theories exploded. Many even believed Tupac faked his death. For 27 years, his murder remained unsolved. Until 2023, when Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, a former gang member who had publicly confessed multiple times, was finally arrested and charged. Tupac's death is one of the most tragic and debated moments in entertainment history. But even in death, he never truly left. His music still climbs charts. His words still inspire protests. His spirit still lives in every artist who dares to speak truth. Tupac didn't just die, he became immortal. The Notorious B.I.G. The Notorious B.I.G. born Christopher Wallace was the voice of East Coast hip-hop and one of the greatest storytellers rap has ever seen. With his debut album Ready to Die in 1994, he exploded onto the scene, bringing gritty realism and lyrical genius to the mainstream. Hits like Juicy Big Papa and Hypnotize made him a cultural force, and by his mid-20s, he had already sold millions of records and reshaped the sound of New York rap. Despite his success, Biggie was caught in the deadly East Coast versus West Coast feud, highlighted by his complicated relationship with Tupac Shakur, once a friend, then a rival, after Tupac was shot in 1994. On March 9, 1997, just 6 months after Tupac's death, Biggie attended a Vibe magazine party in Los Angeles. The energy was tense but celebratory. His second album, Life After Death, was about to drop. After the event ended around 12:30 a.m., Biggie left in a GMC Suburban SUV sitting in the front passenger seat, with his security team following. As his car stopped at a red light on Wilshire Boulevard and Fairfax Avenue, a black Chevy Impala rolled up alongside them. The driver lowered the window and fired 4 shots into Biggie's door. 1 bullet entered his chest and struck vital organs. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. He was just 24 years old. What followed was shock, outrage, and a flood of conspiracy theories. How could 2 of the biggest rappers in the world, Tupac and Biggie, be murdered in similar drive-by shootings 6 months apart, both unsolved? Many believed Biggie's death was retaliation for Tupac. Others suspected gang involvement, corrupt police officers, or even music industry insiders. Multiple investigations pointed to possible cover-ups and LAPD involvement. To this day, no one has been convicted, just weeks after his death. Life After Death was released and debuted at #1, going on to sell over 11 million copies and earning diamond certification. Biggie became a legend, but the tragedy remains one of the most haunting losses in Black Hollywood and hip-hop history. A brilliant mind taken at the peak of his power. In life, he changed the game. In death, he became an icon. Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle, born Ermias Asghedom, was more than a rapper. He was a visionary entrepreneur, community leader, and modern-day revolutionary. Rising from the streets of South Central Los Angeles, he turned pain into purpose, dropping mixtapes like The Marathon and Crenshaw, which he famously sold for $100 per copy, and Jay-Z bought 100 copies to support him. In 2018, his debut studio album, Victory Lap, earned a Grammy nomination, proving that he wasn't just underground, he was elite. But unlike most artists, Nipsey didn't just rap about success. He invested in real estate, opened businesses, created STEM programs for kids, hired former inmates, and pushed for Black ownership. He became the blueprint for economic empowerment in hip-hop. On March 31, 2019, Nipsey stood outside his Marathon clothing store, a store he owned on the very block he once hustled on talking to fans and helping a friend recently released from prison. At 3:20 p.m., Eric Holder, a man Nipsey knew from the neighborhood, confronted him. Eyewitnesses say Nipsey calmly warned him about rumors that could endanger his reputation. Minutes later, Holder returned with a gun. He fired at least 10 shots, hitting Nipsey in the head and torso. Nipsey tried to stand, but Holder shot him again at point-blank range. The act was cold, personal, and brutal. Nipsey died at 33 years old, leaving behind his longtime partner Lauren London and their children. The city of Los Angeles shut down. Over 20,000 people attended his memorial at the Staples Center, the same arena where Kobe Bryant played. Former President Barack Obama wrote a tribute letter. Streets were renamed in his honor. His death was more than a celebrity tragedy. It was the loss of a leader, a builder, a hero to his community. What made Nipsey's death especially tragic was the bitter irony he survived gang life, escaped poverty, built wealth, and returned to uplift his neighborhood, only to be killed in the very place he was trying to save. His passing revealed the dangers black leaders face when they try to change the system from within. Nipsey didn't just leave music, he left a movement. And the Marathon Continues isn't just a slogan, it's a mission. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman was one of the most captivating vocalists of the 1970s and 1980s, a towering beauty at 6 feet tall, with a rich contralto voice that could glide from seductive warmth to heartbreaking vulnerability. She delivered timeless R&B and jazz hits like You Know How to Love Me, Living All Alone, and Old Friend, and stunned Broadway audiences with her Tony-nominated role in Sophisticated Ladies. Her elegance, stage presence, and emotional authenticity made her unforgettable. But behind the glamour, Phyllis carried deep pain. She struggled with lifelong depression, failed relationships, infertility, financial stress, and the pressures of being a dark-skinned black woman in a colorist industry. Unlike many stars who hid their struggles, Phyllis spoke openly about mental health at a time when it was taboo in the black community. As her career hit setbacks in the 1990s due to label politics and changing music trends, her loneliness grew. She often told friends, "I'm tired. I've been fighting my whole life." On June 30th, 1995, just hours before a scheduled performance at the Apollo Theater, Phyllis returned to her New York apartment. There, in devastating silence, she wrote a final note. "I'm tired. I'm tired. Those of you that I love, know who you are. May God bless you." She then took a lethal combination of pentobarbital and secobarbital. Emergency responders found her on her bed, still dressed for the concert. She was 46 years old. Her death sent shockwaves through the music world. How could someone so gifted, so adored, feel so alone? Fans mourned the woman whose voice comforted millions but who never found comfort herself. Her passing sparked long overdue conversations about mental health, suicide, and the emotional burden of black female artists. Phyllis Hyman's death is one of the most tragic losses in black entertainment history, not because she faded away, but because she burned so brightly while silently battling darkness. Even today, artists like Jill Scott Ledisi and Erykah Badu cite her as inspiration. Her voice lives on as a reminder. Some of the strongest souls are fighting the hardest battles in silence. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway was a once-in-a-lifetime talent, a soulful genius whose voice could move people to tears with a single note. Known for masterpieces like A Song for You, the Ghetto, Someday We'll All Be Free, and his iconic duets with Roberta Flack. He became one of the most respected vocalists and arrangers of the 1970s. Trained at Howard University and signed to Atlantic Records, Hathaway blended gospel roots with jazz sophistication and emotional depth. His live performances were legendary. Artists like Stevie Wonder, Alicia Keys, and John Legend all cite him as a major influence. By his early 30s, Donnie looked destined for long-term greatness. But behind the music, he was fighting for his life. Hathaway suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, a serious mental illness that caused hallucinations, delusions, and extreme mood swings. At times, he believed people were trying to kill him or steal his music. He underwent hospitalizations and heavy medication, which affected his ability to perform. Despite this, he continued to create powerful art, but the industry offered little support. Mental health in the 1970s, especially for black men, was stigmatized and often ignored. Donnie was battling his mind alone. On January 13, 1979, Donnie was in New York recording new music with Roberta Flack. They had just reunited to work on a new duet project. But during the session, his behavior became erratic. He spoke about voices in his head. Concerned producers ended the session and sent him back to his room at the Essex House Hotel overlooking Central Park. Hours later, at around 11 p.m., Hathaway fell from the 15th floor window of his suite. He landed on the roof of a building below and died instantly. He was only 33 years old, the official ruling suicide. But many questions remain. There were no signs of forced entry. The window was reportedly already open. His family has always struggled with the truth. Was it intentional, accidental, or the result of untreated illness? What's certain is this: the world lost a voice it could never replace. Donnie Hathaway's death is one of the most heartbreaking tragedies in black music history, not from violence or scandal, but from silent suffering. His songs about hope and healing now carry even deeper meaning. "Someday We'll All Be Free," once written for himself, became a hymn for millions. Even in his pain, he left the world with light. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was not just a guitarist, he was a revolutionary force who changed the sound of music forever. With groundbreaking performances at Woodstock 1969 and the Monterey Pop Festival 1967, and legendary albums like Are You Experienced Axis Bold as Love and Electric Ladyland, he fused rock, blues, soul, and psychedelia in ways no one had ever heard. His guitar didn't just play notes, it spoke, screamed, cried, and soared. Rolling Stone later named him the greatest guitarist of all time. By age 27, he was a global icon, headlining stadiums, breaking racial barriers in rock, and influencing artists from Prince to Lenny Kravitz. But behind the fame, Hendrix was exhausted, overworked, and emotionally isolated. Despite his success, he struggled with management disputes, constant touring, insomnia pressure to produce new music, and a growing dependency on drugs and alcohol. He often said he was tired of being treated like a money machine. The world saw a rock god, but Jimi saw himself as a man losing control of his own life. On September 18, 1970, while staying at the Samarkand Hotel in London with his girlfriend Monica Dannemann, Hendrix took 9 tablets of Vesparax, a powerful barbiturate, 18 times the recommended dose. He then fell asleep and began vomiting in his sleep. Unable to wake or clear his airway, he asphyxiated and was found unresponsive. He was pronounced dead at 27 years old, entering the infamous 27 Club. The official cause: barbiturate overdose and asphyxiation. But controversy followed. Some investigators claimed the ambulance response was delayed. Others believed Hendrix was murdered or manipulated. Even his former road manager later claimed Hendrix was forcibly given pills. No conclusive evidence has ever surfaced, leaving lingering suspicion. What makes his death so tragic is not only how he died, but how much more he had left to give. Just weeks before his death, he recorded new music and talked about forming bands with Miles Davis and Paul McCartney. He wanted to explore jazz orchestras, even film scores. He was about to evolve again and change music forever. Instead, the world lost a genius at his peak. Jimi Hendrix didn't just play the guitar, he redefined what was possible. His life ended in tragedy, but his sound still lives in every electric note that bends, screams, and dreams. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was the voice of a generation, a once-in-a-century talent whose soaring vocals and emotional power made her the most awarded female artist in history. with over 415 awards, including 6 Grammys, 22 AMAs, and 30 Billboard Awards. She sold over 200 million records worldwide, dominated the charts with hits like I Will Always Love You, Greatest Love of All, How Will I Know, and made history with The Bodyguard, the highest-selling soundtrack of all time. Her rendition of the 1991 Super Bowl national anthem is still considered the greatest ever. But behind the glamour, Whitney battled relentless pressure, a controlling industry, toxic relationships, and the crushing weight of fame. Her marriage to Bobby Brown brought chaos, drugs, and tabloid scandals that began to erode her health and career. By the late 2000s, Whitney was trying to rebuild her life. She released her comeback album, I Look to You, in 2009, which debuted at #1 on Billboard. But years of addiction had taken a heavy toll on her voice and body. On February 11, 2012, the night before the Grammy Awards, Whitney was staying at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Los Angeles. Throughout the day, witnesses saw her looking disoriented and exhausted. At 3:36 p.m., she was found face down in a bathtub filled with water, unresponsive. The scene was chilling water on the floor, pill bottles on the counter, and her last song playing on the radio. Emergency personnel pulled her from the tub, but after 20 minutes of CPR, she was pronounced dead at 48 years old. The autopsy revealed the tragic truth. Whitney died from accidental drowning with heart disease and cocaine use listed as contributing factors. Years of substance abuse had damaged her heart. It wasn't just one moment, it was years of pain, pressure, and untreated trauma. Her death shattered the world. Fans gathered outside the hotel, and the Grammys turned into a memorial. The funeral broadcast globally featured stars like Stevie Wonder, Alicia Keys, and Kevin Costner, who said, "You weren't just good enough, you were the best." Even more heartbreaking, 3 years later, her daughter Bobbi Kristina died in nearly identical circumstances. Whitney Houston's death remains one of the most tragic and symbolic losses in Black celebrity history, a divine voice destroyed by the darkness of fame. She burned brighter than anyone, but even the brightest stars can be consumed by their own light. Bobbi Kristina Brown. Bobbi Kristina Brown was born into music royalty as the only child of Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, two of the most famous entertainers of their era. From a young age, she appeared in documentaries, red carpets, and even performed alongside her mother, leading fans to believe she would one day carry on Whitney's legendary legacy. But growing up in the spotlight came with a heavy price. Bobbi Kristina witnessed her parents' public fights, substance abuse, and intense media scrutiny. When Whitney died in 2012, Bobbi Kristina was only 18 years old, and the world watched in fear as grief consumed her. She became increasingly isolated, entered a controversial relationship with Nick Gordon, and battled emotional trauma addiction and family conflict. What makes her story especially tragic is how eerily it mirrored her mother's fate. On January 31, 2015, less than 3 years after Whitney's death, Bobbi Kristina was found face down in a bathtub in her Georgia home, the identical manner in which her mother was found. The water was cold. Her skin was pale. She had bruises on her body and toxic substances in her system. Emergency responders were able to resuscitate her heartbeat, but she never regained consciousness. She was placed in a medically induced coma and moved between hospitals and care facilities for 6 agonizing months. On July 26, 2015, at just 22 years old, Bobbi Kristina passed away. The official cause, lobar pneumonia, resulting from brain damage caused by near drowning. However, the story did not end there. A wrongful death lawsuit accused Nick Gordon of giving her a toxic cocktail and physically harming her. In 2016, a judge found Gordon legally responsible for her death and ordered him to pay $36 million in damages, though he was never criminally convicted. He later died from a drug overdose in 2020. Bobbi Kristina's death became one of the most heartbreaking tragedies in Black celebrity history, not just because she died young, but because she seemed destined for greatness before being swallowed by inherited pain. Her story is a haunting reminder that trauma can pass through generations, and even in the richest, most famous families, love alone isn't always enough to save a life. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson wasn't just a superstar. He was the most famous entertainer in the world, a cultural phenomenon who transformed music, dance, fashion, and global pop culture. From starting with the Jackson 5 as a child prodigy to launching the greatest solo career in history, he created timeless albums like Off the Wall, Bad Dangerous, and the best-selling album of all time, Thriller. Over 70 million copies sold worldwide. He pioneered the moonwalk, redefined music videos with Billie Jean and Beat It, and became the first black artist to dominate MTV, breaking racial barriers. With 13 Grammys, over 350 million records sold, and hundreds of awards, he earned the title King of Pop. But behind the glittering fame were years of lawsuits, media scrutiny, financial pressure, and exhausting expectations that slowly broke him down. By 2009, Michael was preparing a massive comeback, 50 sold-out This Is It concerts in London, expected to make over $400 million, but he was physically and emotionally drained. To sleep, he relied on propofol, a powerful hospital-grade anesthetic no one should ever use at home. His personal doctor, Dr. Conrad Murray, administered the drug nightly without proper monitoring equipment. On June 25, 2009, in his Holmby Hills mansion in Los Angeles, Michael stopped breathing. When paramedics arrived, his body was cold and there was no pulse. At 2:26 p.m., the world was told Michael Jackson was dead at 50 years old. The autopsy revealed acute propofol intoxication as the cause of death, with benzodiazepine sedatives also in his system. His personal doctor was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years in prison for negligence. Millions flooded the streets. 2.5 billion people watched his memorial, making it one of the most watched events in global history. Even in death, his influence only grew. His estate has earned over $2 billion since 2009, proving that legends never truly die. Michael's death is one of the most tragic losses in black celebrity and world entertainment history, not just because he died, but because he died trying to give the world one last gift. The stage lights dimmed, but his legacy continues to shine brighter than ever. Prince. Prince Rogers Nelson was more than a musician. He was a musical revolutionary, a one-man universe of sound who blurred every line, genre, gender, race, and industry rules. With masterpieces like Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, Kiss 1999, and Little Red Corvette, he sold over 150 million records, won 7 Grammys, an Academy Award, and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. He wrote, produced, and played every instrument on many of his albums, and could perform rock like Hendrix, funk like James Brown, and soul like Marvin Gaye, all in the same song. He fought for artistic freedom, famously changing his name to a symbol to protest against his record label. Prince was not just ahead of his time, he was beyond time. But behind his electrifying stage presence, he suffered from chronic pain, especially in his hips, after decades of jumping splits and high-energy performances. Instead of major surgery, he relied on prescription painkillers, often performing while in agony. In April 2016, fans noticed something was wrong. He canceled shows in Atlanta, citing the flu. On April 15th, his private jet made an emergency landing in Moline, Illinois, after he overdosed on opioids. Doctors revived him with Narcan and begged him to stay for treatment. Prince refused. 6 days later, on April 21, 2016, at his Paisley Park estate in Minnesota, a place once filled with music and joy, Prince was found unresponsive in an elevator. Paramedics attempted CPR, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead at 57 years old. The autopsy confirmed the cause: accidental overdose of counterfeit fentanyl pills. He thought he was taking Vicodin, but the pills were laced with one of the most lethal opioids on Earth, up to 50 times stronger than heroin. Investigators never found who supplied the fake pills, and no one was charged. The world fell silent. Cities turned buildings purple. Fans danced in the streets. Even the sky over Minnesota lit up with purple lightning. His death exposed a chilling truth: even the greatest genius of our time was not safe from the opioid epidemic. Prince's passing is one of the most tragic celebrity deaths in Black Hollywood history, not just because we lost him, but because he died alone in pain while still trying to create. He once sang, "There's joy in repetition." Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman was not just an actor, he was a symbol of strength, dignity, and Black excellence. Before the world knew him as King T'Challa in Black Panther, he built a career portraying real-life Black legends with depth and respect. Jackie Robinson in 42, James Brown in Get On Up, and Thurgood Marshall in Marshall. He didn't just act, he embodied greatness. But when he stepped into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, everything changed. Black Panther 2018 made over $1.3 billion worldwide, became a cultural movement, and earned 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. For millions of children, especially Black children, he was the first superhero who looked like them. Chadwick wasn't just a star, he was history. But behind his iconic roles, he was hiding a secret battle that very few people knew about. In 2016, at just 39 years old, Chadwick was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. While most people would have stepped away from the spotlight, he did the unthinkable. He kept working. He filmed 7 movies during treatment, including Black Panther: Avengers: Infinity War, Avengers: Endgame, 21 Bridges, Da 5 Bloods, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, all while going through surgeries and rounds of chemotherapy. On set, he visited children with cancer, even as he fought his own battle in silence. He never once complained publicly. He suffered privately and inspired the world publicly. On August 28, 2020, in his Los Angeles home, surrounded by his family and reading the script of his next film, Chadwick took his final breath. He was 43 years old. When the news broke, the world stopped. No one knew. Fans were stunned. His co-stars were speechless. The hashtag #WakandaForever trended globally as millions mourned a king. His death was more than tragic. It was unbelievable. How could someone so strong, so noble be gone? But Chadwick's legacy is unlike any other. He showed that superheroes are real. They don't just wear capes. They sacrifice in silence, uplift their people, and leave the world better than they found it. Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac wasn't just a comedian. He was a force of nature, a raw, fearless voice who turned pain into laughter and became one of the most beloved entertainers of his generation. Rising from the tough streets of Chicago, he broke out on Def Comedy Jam with a legendary performance that shook the stage and made him a household name overnight. From there, he starred in hit movies like The Players Club Ocean's 11 Bad Santa, Mr. 3000, and most iconically created The Bernie Mac Show, which won Emmy Peabody and NAACP Image Awards and redefined Black family sitcoms. Bernie wasn't just funny, he was honest. He spoke about real life, real struggles, and real love with unmatched authenticity. But behind his booming voice and big personality, he faced a lifelong battle with a hidden enemy, sarcoidosis, an inflammatory lung disease. Diagnosed in the 1980s, Bernie kept working even when the disease attacked his lungs and weakened his immune system. He rarely spoke about it publicly because he didn't want sympathy, he wanted to inspire strength. But years of non-stop filming, travel, and stress took a toll. In July 2008, Bernie was hospitalized in Chicago with severe pneumonia, a deadly complication for someone with sarcoidosis. His condition quickly worsened. Doctors placed him on a ventilator. Fans prayed, celebrities sent support, and for a moment it seemed he might recover, but the infection was too aggressive. On August 9, 2008, at 2:00 a.m., Bernie Mac passed away at 50 years old. The comedy world shattered. Steve Harvey cried on live radio. Cedric the Entertainer didn't speak for days. The city of Chicago held public memorials. People around the world said the same thing: Bernie felt like family. What made his death especially tragic was that Bernie Mac had so much more to give. He was preparing new movies, a talk show, and mentoring young comedians. He once said, "I'm not afraid to die. I just don't want to leave before I'm done." Sadly, he left too soon. Bernie Mac's death remains one of the most heartbreaking losses in Black Hollywood, not just because he was funny, but because he was real. He made the world laugh through his pain, and that made him unforgettable. Heavy D. Heavy D born Dwight Arrington. Myers was a pioneering figure in hip-hop, a charismatic rapper, producer, and actor who helped bring feel-good energy and mainstream success to the genre in the late 1980s and 1990s. As the frontman of Heavy D and the Boys, he delivered iconic hits like "Now That We Found Love, Somebody for Me, Is It Good to You?" and the In Living Color theme song, blending rap with R&B in a way that reshaped urban music. He was also a respected executive, becoming the president of Uptown Records, where he helped launch the careers of Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, and even introduced Diddy to the industry. Unlike the aggressive image of many rappers, Heavy D was beloved for his positivity, smooth style, and charm, earning the nickname the Overweight Lover. But his influence went beyond music. He acted in shows like Living Single, A Different World, Boston Public, and films like Life and the Cider House Rules. In 2011, he made a powerful comeback performing at the BET Awards and the Michael Jackson tribute concert in Wales, proving he still had star power decades later. Fans were excited that he was returning to the spotlight. No one knew these would be his final performances. On November 8, 2011, after a flight from London to Los Angeles, Heavy D returned home feeling fatigued and short of breath. He climbed the stairs to his Beverly Hills condo and suddenly collapsed outside his home. A neighbor called 911. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but doctors couldn't save him. He died shortly after arrival at 44 years old. The autopsy revealed the cause: pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in the lungs likely caused by deep vein thrombosis from sitting too long on the long international flight. He also had pneumonia, which worsened his breathing. It was a silent killer striking without warning. His death shocked the entertainment world. He had just performed. He looked healthy. He was planning new music. Tributes poured in from Will Smith, Queen Latifah, Diddy, Jay-Z, and Eddie F. Everyone said the same thing. He was one of the kindest men in the industry. Heavy D's death remains one of the most tragic and unexpected losses in Black Hollywood, not from violence or scandal, but from a hidden medical danger. He uplifted the culture with joy, and even in his final words on Twitter, he wrote, "Be inspired." James Brown. James Brown wasn't just a performer. He was the godfather of soul, the architect of funk, and one of the most influential artists in music history. With explosive hits like "I Got You, I Feel Good," Papa's got a brand new bag. "Say It Loud," "I'm Black and I'm Proud," and "Get Up," I feel like being a sex machine. He changed the sound of rhythm and blues forever. He recorded over 50 albums, had 17 #1 R&B hits, and influenced legends like Michael Jackson, Prince, Bruno Mars, and every hip-hop producer who ever sampled his beats. On stage, he was a hurricane, spins, splits, sweat, and screams. Off stage, he was a cultural force, using his music to promote Black pride during the Civil Rights Movement. But decades of touring, stress, legal troubles, and health issues began to wear down the hardest working man in show business. In December 2006, James Brown continued performing despite suffering from pneumonia. Even at 73 years old, he was booking concerts, refusing to rest his team. Said he planned to perform on New Year's Eve. But his condition worsened rapidly. On Christmas Day, December 25, 2006, at Emory Crawford Long Hospital in Atlanta, James Brown woke up, looked at his longtime manager, Charles Bobbitt, and said his final words, "I'm going away tonight." Moments later, he took his last breath. The official cause of death: congestive heart failure triggered by severe pneumonia. But the tragedy didn't end there. After his death, chaos erupted. Over 12 people claimed to be his children. Family members fought over his will, and his body was moved multiple times because the family couldn't agree on a burial site. Lawsuits lasted over a decade, and shocking allegations surfaced. Some close friends and even doctors believed he may have been murdered due to suspicious medical handling. To this day, his final resting place is unknown to the public. James Brown's death is one of the most tragic and controversial in Black celebrity history, not just because we lost a musical titan, but because his legacy was mishandled, his estate was exploited, and his body became the center of a legal war. A man who gave everything to music was not given peace in death. Yet despite the chaos, his impact is eternal. Every scream, every groove, every sample carries his DNA. James Brown didn't just change music, he changed the rhythm of the world. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin wasn't just the Queen of Soul. She was the voice of American history, a cultural monument whose music defined power, vulnerability, and Black womanhood. With timeless classics like "Respect You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman," "I Say a Little Prayer," "Chain of Fools," and "Think," she became the first woman in history to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She sold over 75 million records, earned 18 Grammy Awards, and performed for 4 U.S. presidents, including bringing Barack Obama to tears with her 2015 Kennedy Center performance. But her influence went beyond music. Aretha used her voice to support the civil rights movement, marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and even offered to bail Angela Davis out of jail, saying Black people will be free. But behind her powerful vocals was a lifelong battle with health problems, heartbreak, and family loss. She survived an abusive marriage, struggled with weight and alcoholism, and endured decades of grueling performances. In 2010, she was diagnosed with pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer, a rare and aggressive form of the disease. Although she never publicly confirmed her illness, her dramatic weight loss and frequent hospital visits raised concern. Still, she kept performing. One of her last major appearances was in November 2017, where she sang for Elton John's AIDS Foundation at 75 years old, delivering a breathtaking final performance. By 2018, her condition had worsened. Surrounded by family at her Detroit home, Aretha spent her final days listening to gospel music. On August 16, 2018, the world stopped as news broke. Aretha Franklin had died at 76. The official cause, advanced pancreatic cancer. Her death shook the globe. Fans gathered outside her home. Landmarks lit up in gold. Former presidents, celebrities, and civil rights leaders all paid tribute. Her funeral lasted over 8 hours, featuring performances from Stevie Wonder, Ariana Grande, Chaka Khan, Jennifer Hudson Fantasia, and more. It wasn't just a funeral, it was a royal farewell, but even in death, controversy followed. Aretha left no official will, leading to a 4-year legal battle between her sons after handwritten wills were found in her couch cushions. Still, one thing remained undisputed: her legacy. Aretha Franklin's death is one of the most profound and emotional losses in Black Hollywood history. Not because she faded away, but because she gave everything until the very end. She didn't just sing soul, she was soul. Naya Rivera. Naya Rivera wasn't just a TV star, she was a trailblazer. Best known as Santana Lopez on Glee, she broke barriers as one of the first Afro-Latina actresses to portray a complex LGBTQ+ character on primetime television, earning critical acclaim and a devoted fan base. Her performance helped countless viewers feel seen and sparked cultural conversations about identity, love, and acceptance. Before Glee, she had been in show business since she was 4 years old, appearing in shows like Family Matters, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Smart Guy. She also released music, wrote a best-selling memoir, and was praised as one of the most naturally gifted talents in Hollywood. But her proudest role was being a mother to her son, Josie, the love of her life. On July 8, 2020, Naya rented a pontoon boat at Lake Piru in California, a lake known for strong currents, unpredictable winds, and multiple previous drownings. She and 4-year-old Josie went swimming, neither wore a life jacket in the water. At approximately 4:00 p.m., another boater discovered the pontoon drifting. Josie was found alone, wrapped in a towel and wearing his life vest, asleep on the boat. Naya was missing. The search lasted 5 agonizing days. Helicopters, divers, drones, sonar dogs, authorities used everything. Fans, celebrities, and former Glee cast members flooded social media with prayers. On July 13, 2020, her body was finally found. She was 34 years old. The heartbreaking truth soon emerged. Naya and her son were caught in a dangerous current. She used the last of her strength to push Josie back onto the boat, but she did not have enough energy to save herself. Her final act was sacrifice. She died a hero, a mother who gave her life so her child could live. The tragedy was eerily symbolic. She died on the 7th anniversary of her co-star Corey Monteith's death, another young Glee star gone too soon. Fans called it a Glee curse, but the reality is deeper. Hollywood lost a powerful, vibrant woman who had so much more to give. Naya Rivera's death is one of the most tragic and emotional losses in Black Hollywood, not because she was famous, but because in her final moment she showed unconditional love. A mother's love stronger than fear, stronger than death. Roger Troutman. Roger Troutman was a musical genius, a pioneer of funk, and the mastermind behind the iconic talkbox sound that shaped West Coast hip-hop and R&B for decades. As the founder and frontman of Zapp, he delivered timeless hits like More, Bounce to the Ounce, Computer Love, I Wanna Be Your Man, and influenced legends such as Dr. Dre, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, and Ice Cube. His music became the backbone of G-Funk. Dr. Dre even brought him in to sing the unforgettable hook on California Love, one of the biggest hip-hop anthems ever. Roger wasn't just talented, he was revolutionary, blending technology and soul like no one before or after. By the late 1990s, he was still touring, still recording and planning a major comeback. He was a legend. And then came one of the most shocking deaths in Black music history. On April 25, 1999, at around 7 a.m., residents of Dayton, Ohio, heard gunshots outside Roger's recording studio. Roger was found slumped behind the wheel of a car, bleeding heavily from gunshot wounds. He was rushed to the hospital but died during surgery at 47 years old. Within minutes, police found another body in a nearby alley, Larry Troutman, Roger's older brother and former bandmate. Larry had shot Roger multiple times, then turned the gun on himself. The music industry was stunned. Why would Larry kill his own brother? Investigations revealed the brothers had been arguing over money, business control, and the future of their company. Larry was reportedly facing bankruptcy and lawsuits, and Roger had begun distancing himself from him in business matters. Some family members believed Larry felt betrayed. Others said it was deeper decades of built-up resentment inside the band. Roger Troutman's death was not only tragic, it was unthinkable. A man who brought joy, innovation, and unity to music was taken by family conflict and internal pain. Fans mourned worldwide. Artists like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Outkast paid tribute in music. His sound still lives in countless samples and songs. Roger's death remains one of the most devastating and personal tragedies in Black entertainment, not from accident or illness, but from the darkest betrayal of all family turned against family. Dolla. Dolla-born Roderick Anthony Burton II was one of the most promising young rappers of the late 2000s, a rising star on the verge of blowing up. Discovered by Akon, Dolla signed to Convict Music Jive Records and impressed the industry with his smooth delivery, swagger, and natural charisma. His breakout single, Who the Heck Is That, featuring T-Pain and Tay Dizzum, gained heavy radio play and MTV rotation. He toured with Chris Brown, T-Pain, and Lil Wayne, and was being groomed as the next big mainstream artist. With movie roles, modeling work for Sean John, and co-signs from major names, Dalla was just 21 years old and positioned to be the next superstar of hip-hop. But on May 18, 2009, everything ended in a shocking burst of violence. While shopping at the Beverly Center Mall in Los Angeles, Dalla was with friends and his cousin when he was confronted by Aubrey Berry, a man he had previous conflicts with. Witnesses reported a brief argument. Then Berry pulled out a 9mm handgun and fired multiple shots. Dalla was struck in the back as he tried to flee, collapsing near the entrance of a restaurant. Panicked shoppers screamed and ran. The mall went on lockdown. Paramedics rushed Dalla to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but he was pronounced dead at 21. The motive stunned everyone. Berry claimed self-defense, saying Dalla had threatened him previously. But prosecutors argued it was revenge over a $1 million dispute related to a past altercation in Atlanta. In 2010, Berry was acquitted of murder, but found guilty of manslaughter and gun possession, receiving a 5-year sentence, a verdict many fans felt was far too light for taking a life. Dalla's death was especially tragic because he was right on the edge of success. His debut album was nearly finished. Akon called him a future legend. Instead of headlining tours and topping charts, he became another young black star lost to senseless violence. He was talented. He was focused. He was just getting started. Dalla's story remains one of the most heartbreaking and overlooked tragedies in hip-hop, a reminder that fame cannot protect you from jealousy, revenge, or the dangers of the streets. Even in the heart of Beverly Hills, these 25 tragic deaths prove that even the brightest stars in Black Hollywood faced unthinkable pain behind the spotlight. From plane crashes and violent shootings to silent battles with illness and mental health, each story reminds us how fragile greatness can be. They were legends, pioneers, icons, and yet their lives ended in ways the world still struggles to understand. But their legacies continue to shape music, film culture, and history. The question is, are these tragedies the result of fate, negligence, or something much deeper within the industry itself? Which loss hit you the hardest, and why? Let's talk about it in the comments below on Legends of Black Excellence.